Shalom. This week we are reading Parshat Emor here in the land of Israel. Parshat Emor is the 8th Torah portion in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus. We have 2 more to go. And this is certainly a good time to stop and get our bearings. Try to take stock of everything that we've been learning here in Vayikra, recalling that this entire experience, this center, this heart of the Torah, the book of Vayikra, started out with a call. Right? Vayikra. Hashem called out to Moshe. But we know that only he could hear that call. And we learned about that it's a still small call. Because everything in this book is so fine. There's a lot of nuance here. It's not even a question of nuance. It's a question of literally a calling to something very elusive within our nature. Something very ennobling, because it's really a reflection of the divine image, this call. So now I want to ask myself, are we any closer to hearing that call or to understanding it? Do we have any idea by now what it is that we are meant to receive in this Torah? It's a call to holiness. That's what this whole book is all about. It's been made very clear to us in the Parshiot, the Torah portions of the past several weeks. Now this week's Torah portion, beginning with the special laws that apply to the Kohanim, the descendants of Aaron that are serving in the Holy Temple, through the laws that apply to the sanctity of the offerings and the physical disqualifications of the animals that may be brought as offerings, all of this is just a whole different level of reality that reflects the deepest challenge for us to sensitize ourselves to the sanctity of our own lives, of the life force of nature, to the world around us. There's a program here. It's the mandates of life centered, fixed on the Holy Temple, on the tabernacle, which becomes the Holy Temple. And that program is, really simply put, to remain sensitive at all times. Now, Vayikra is all about holiness. God told us back in the book of Exodus that we shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Here he's told us in this book of Vayikra, you shall be holy, for I, Hashem, your God, the Lord your God, am holy. How do we define holiness? Now, we have consistently defined this concept as the best definition that we can, as separation. And that when Hashem says to us, you shall be holy because I am holy, as if he's comparing our situations, as if you could do such a thing, well, all that we can say about God is that he's nothing like anything else, and he's in a completely different category, and he's separate. So he's telling us we also have to be separate. That doesn't mean aloof. It just means that we are striving to have a different consciousness and sensitivity all the time. We don't have the luxury of allowing ourselves to be swallowed up by the mundane until everything just becomes the same. But I think we could also define holiness by now, as we explored this Parshiot, in a new way. It's not only a state of a mental separation which leads to a heightened sensitivity. It's also about hope. It's about staying hopeful, sharp, focused on the possibilities of the ennoblement of humanity and the redemption of the world, all of which depend on mankind understanding that God is in our midst, and that there's a purpose to life. What If It All Means Something is the name of the 3rd album by Canadian singer-songwriter Chantal Kreviazuk, released in 2002. I couldn't have put it better myself. What if it all means something? What if every thought, word, and deed, every striving for better, every small act of self-control and empathy for others every relationship, every act of caring for this world and its preservation, every attempt to rise above the morass of pettiness, despair, and hopelessness that unfortunately characterizes at times our lives and the lives of so many countless nameless humans. Every precious moment we have on this earth, or as Chantal puts it, in this life, what if it all means something? Obviously it does, and obviously that's what the Torah, especially the book of Vayikra, is fixated on. And now, in Parshat Emor, as the laws and all of the details pertaining to the building of the sanctuary, the tabernacle, the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting, which becomes in history the Holy Temple, as they reach their conclusion, we find chapter 23 describes the cycle of the Jewish year, the cycle of the calendar, beginning with Shabbat and going through all of the festivals which themselves focus on the service in the Holy Temple. I've always personally found it amazing that now the Torah records the cycle of the year. Why is that? Why do the festivals appear here in this week's Torah portion? The answer actually is pretty clear and pretty blatant. And it is the natural progression to this book and the natural progression to the idea that we are discussing now, the idea of holiness, the idea of a call that's being issued, a proclamation. In fact, that's what the verses here tell us, that we shall proclaim these festivals. They themselves proclaim, call out holiness. The temple in space is exactly what the festivals are in time. Both of them have as their aim our union with God. The physical dimension of space, by focusing on the tabernacle, the Holy Temple, as the center of our lives, that sets the Torah of God as the actual center of our world and says, this is the place where we find our direction to the living God. And the calendar, in the same way, calls our attention to fixed times in the changing course of the year, which accomplishes the exact same thing, keeping us not aloof, but calling us to the holiness of sensitivity to others. Because what it means to be holy, what does it mean if you're not sensitive to the moment and to someone else's needs and to the world around us? You can act holy, you could roll your eyes and go, and make all sorts of postures. But if you're not sensitive to others, then you can't possibly be holy. So if I could draw a picture of what it all means, because it certainly all means something, of where this is taking us, this Vayikra, it's all going somehow to one point, some crescendo. All of our experience is leading us to one point. And that point, which is so beautifully emphasized by the confluence of these ideas in Parshat Emor, the point is fixing our consciousness on God's presence in the world in every dimension. Physically, we focus our energy on the place that He's commanded us to come to draw forth from there and from within ourselves the connection to realize the vibrancy of the reality of our relationship with God, and in time, throughout the year, for us to be able to fix our consciousness on those events in the history of the formation of our people, which revisit themselves constantly on a yearly cycle and present us with the opportunity to redouble our efforts latching on to this consciousness of focusing on God and thus elevating and sanctifying every aspect of our lives. What a program. And indeed, this is the program of the book of Vayikra, the heart of the Torah, the entire experience that God gives us and invites us to. It's a program of remaining sensitive to the moment, to others, to the world around us, and to hear this fine call that was beckoning to us since the beginning of the book of Vayikra, the call to holiness, which means to imbue every aspect of our lives with the constant realization of the reality of God in our world, every day, in time, in space, in every aspect of our lives, with us all the time, the call to holiness.